Indian Muslim women to hold an elected position in the history of California. She was born and raised in San Francisco and is a graduate of San Francisco's public schools. She is an educator, advocate, and policy analyst. Her deep commitment to education stems from her experiences overcoming barriers to pursue her academic dreams. She earned an MA in Education Policy from Columbia University, where her thesis emphasized the need for higher education reform to reduce the student debt burden on college students. In 2016, she was nominated by the US Department of State as a Fulbright scholar to teach English and study higher education policy in North Macedonia. She holds a BSc in Nutrition Science from UC Davis and is currently working at the Department of Children, Youth, and their Families for the city and country of San Francisco. Well, she's a woman of extraordinary abilities, but it is her personal challenges of being in a position of power, her never give up attitude, and her undying spirit to do everything she can for the betterment of others that make her story truly one of a kind. Our lovely audience, please help me in warmly welcoming our guest of honor for today, Ms. Aliya Chisti. Well, thank you so much, Aliya, for joining in today. It's almost 10 p.m. right now, as you said, and we have close to 500 people who've joined us. Is this your first time talking to people in India for this big of an audience in India?
Yes, definitely. Oh my goodness. And I'm so excited to be here. And thank you so much for that amazing introduction, Ashi. I'm super excited. Can't think of a better way to spend my Friday night.
Absolutely, Aliya, we're so excited and we can't wait for what this turns out to be. Well, Aliya, there's so much that we want to know from you and learn from you. But before I jump into any of these questions, I would like to tell all our students that please enter your name correctly and populate your questions on Pigeonhole. That's where you're going to be upvoting your questions, and we're going to be asking those questions to Aliya as well at the end of this segment. So, well, with this, Aliya, are you ready for just a few questions from our end?
Yes, let's do it. And just a point of clarification that I want to make. I'm the first Muslim woman to be elected in San Francisco, not in California, in San Francisco.
All right. Thank you so much for that clarification, Aliya, but it's a big feat.
Yes.
Well, we are going to start with our first question, Aliya, and that is, you are one of the first Indian Muslim women in California and the first in San Francisco to have been democratically elected, in the United States of America. How did it all begin?
Yeah, that's a loaded question. How did it all begin? I think that maybe if I were to pinpoint it to a moment in particular, I ran for to be my school secretary in elementary school. So when I was like in fifth grade, I ran. And it was like the first time I went on stage and I gave a speech, and I was like 9 years old and I was super nervous and I lost. I didn't win. And was very traumatized. I was like, I'm never going to do this again. And then in 8th grade, I was selected to give my middle school speech. And I think maybe somewhere in my mind and in my heart, I've always had an interest in public speaking or running for office and public service, but just maybe was really afraid to kind of speak it into existence. So I think the culminating moment came when I was in my most recent position overseeing a program for the city of San Francisco. And I started to go, I learned about the Board of Trustees and I started to go to these meetings. And I was sitting in the meeting one day and there was a thought in my mind that I wonder if I could do that. And I remember after that meeting ended, I remember talking to my friend and I was like, I really want to do this, but I don't know how, and maybe it's not for me. So I think it's always been there, but I think that was like the first time that I started to kind of really float the idea and start speaking about it and getting feedback. And so I'd say it probably started there.
So, starting young, I think 5th grade, you said, is the first experience you had with something like this. And I'm sure like our students too, at some point they've realized certain things, and they often, like, you said you were scared to speak it into existence. What kind of changed, how did you change that perspective? How did you think that this is something that you want to pursue further?
Yeah, I didn't. I actually didn't. I think I'm very lucky to have a lot of mentors, a lot of just an amazing support system. Like one of my best friends is on this call, Vidhi, who just I'm blessed to have an amazing support system that really believes in me. And so I think I getting that encouragement and just kind of reiterated this desire, and me being like, yes, I can do this. They're right. Yeah, I think that was a big piece of it, was just lucky enough to have a wonderful support system and mentors.
And would you say, like, they are the ones who kind of pushed you into, like, also making this decision, right?
Yeah, definitely. There was a lot of back and forth that I was doing in my mind. I was like, can I do this? Should I do this? Like, I don't want people talking about me. I don't want people on my social media. Like, I'm afraid of speaking to people, like governing this would be like a second job. I still have a full-time job, so it's occupying a lot of my time. But yeah, I think just that encouragement was definitely key.
Yeah, I think, like, if I was to say something like about myself too, I've had so many of such experiences where a lot of things I've ended up doing because somebody pushed me to do it. And at that point, like, probably I wouldn't agree with them, and I'd probably say that no, this is not something for me. And only after I've done it, I would realize, okay, this was something for me. So I think sometimes just people around you can help you so much, and they become your support system. And I think you were lucky, and I think a lot of us are lucky. We just sometimes fail to realize that these are people who are only wishing well for us. So, well, thanks for that, Aliya. It was lovely hearing that, and knowing that Vidhi is also here, who's, silently supporting you yet even today. So thanks, Vidhi, for that too. I'm just going to quickly move on to my next question. You spoke about how, you decided to pursue this. And I'm sure that, there were a lot of instances in your life that kind of pushed you in this direction. But did you always know that this is somewhere or something that you want to pursue?
No, definitely not. I mean, I think it was in my heart, like I was mentioning, I think it was in my heart somewhere. I would say, so when I was on the East Coast, in New York, I remember I like really went out of my way to go to Washington, D.C. Like that's our capital. And I had tried so hard to get an internship with a congressional member, because I just wanted to be in the building. Like I wanted to experience what it was like, and I was so eager to get that feeling. And I must have applied to so many internships, all which were unpaid. Right? They're not even giving me money. I was saying I'll work for free, and I didn't hear back. And I had sent one email, and it had the person had saw my resume, and she said that I no longer work there, but I'll send it to the congresswoman. At that time it was office of Congresswoman Yvette Clarke, and their chief of staff decided to call me in for an interview. And I'll just never forget that feeling of like walking into the marble floors and the blue carpet for the Democrats and the red carpet for the Republicans. And there was like these secret trolleys, and just I fell in love in that moment. And I got this feeling like I want to be here in some capacity, or working on legislation or something like this. So I think that was a very pivotal moment for me.
Right, absolutely. And from our conversation earlier too, you mentioned that while this happened, it happened like only recently, right? Like when you were studying in college, especially in UC Davis, where you were where you had taken pre-med courses, you had also taken calculus, and then it took you a while. You also pursued LSAT. So at that point, what was your feeling about how you want to go ahead with your career? Would you say it was like a linear career trajectory in that sense?
No, I definitely did not. So this was when in undergrad, in college, I didn't know what my major was going to be, right? I went into college. All of my friends were pre-med. They were all going to be doctors. And then, so I was like, okay, I'll be a doctor. So I started taking all of these science classes. And then it became like, I was struggling so much. And then like at that, you're learning about how women don't do good in math or science. And I was like, no, that's not true. I'm going to prove that, yes, we can. And so I continued to pursue, I took organic chemistry, which was really hard. And I finished college and I was like, I love health. I love science. I'm so proud of my achievement, but this isn't for me. And that was such a difficult thing to grapple with because I had worked so hard for 4 years. I had sacrificed so much, but it was something that I had to kind of come to terms with. And uh, after college, for those like 3-4 years, I struggled so much. I was like, okay, if not a doctor, what else should somebody who's Indian be? A lawyer. So I was like, okay, I'll study. I took the LSAT. I studied for law. I actually did pretty good. I gave the exam, and I stopped it, and I was like, this isn't what I want to do. And at that time, I was teaching sporadically, not full time. And I became so interested in the differences that I was seeing between schools. And then I was like, who makes policy? Like, I had no clue. Like, who decides these things? Who dictates what happens in the classroom, which shapes all of our lives, right? Like, education is the most powerful tool to change the world. So, who is sitting there and making these decisions around this? And so I became curious and I started to hone in on education policy. And originally, I was only applying to schools in California because my family was like, you have to stay close. Like, I had a lot of anxiety about leaving my family. And then someone told me, you should apply to Harvard and Stanford. And I was like, no way. No, I'm not going to apply to Harvard and Stanford. I don't have money like that. Like, I would never be able to afford it. I'm not going to get in. And I ended up applying to Teachers College. And I applied to Teachers College because of the program. And I got into the program. And it was once I got in that I realized that Teachers College was Columbia University's graduate school of education. So I didn't even know it was an Ivy League school. And my family didn't know, had never really heard of Columbia University. So they were like, why don't you go to the school down the street? Why are you going there across the country? And I was like, no, this is a really good school. Like, trust me, I need to do this. So yeah, that's how I kind of made it there. But after college, I was all over the place.
No, I mean, I think that's such an interesting few things that you mentioned actually over here. Firstly, that, this is a very important takeaway when it comes to our students too. A lot of our students kind of feel that they have to make these decisions early on and they need to be right decisions. But I feel like at points, even if you make a decision, that the choice to make it right is what we can see how Aliya's made decisions and she's turned them into correct decisions. And I feel our students also need to learn that, yes, you make decisions and you can turn them around, you pivot and you figure a way out. And another thing is that, you spoke about the internal dialogue, which told you that it's not for you. But it clearly was. You landed up in an Ivy League. So that again is a very important lesson, I feel, for our students who believe that, who kind of make these decisions for themselves, that no, this is not something for me. And I'm sure that there are a lot of students who would agree with this, that, we are our biggest critiques who say that, this is not something for me. So I think this episode, this instance actually tells us how it can change and how you can be wrong. How you can clearly be wrong and how you can also end up in a great college and a university. So thank you so much again, Aliya, for that. I think everyone, me included, has learned from that. And
Yeah, and just one thing that I want to add, right? A big part of it was a financial decision, right? Like, I could not afford to go to Columbia University. My family didn't have the money for it. I didn't have the money for it. So I knew that I would have to take out hundreds of thousands of dollars in student loans in order to go to this institution. So it was a decision I did not take lightly. But at the same time, when I was making this decision, had to I had to look at it as a way of like, I'm making an investment in myself. And there's no better investment that I can make than in myself and in my education. And I know no matter what, like I'm going to succeed. And I had to like change, I had to keep telling myself that, because if I didn't succeed, then I'd be filing bankruptcy and that would be complicated. um, but no, it was, because I had increased the stakes so much, it also forced me to just really be like, okay, Aliya, you're going to figure it out and you're going to have to figure it out and you're going to be successful. And I had to like start changing the narrative in my own mind.
Right. Absolutely. Speaking about just like financial struggles, I'm sure a lot of people, especially when applying to such universities, do end up facing many such struggles, but they also find a way out. They also figure out. So I think that's again another lesson, that it's important to dream big, and these dreams eventually do figure a way out, and you do end up going to such universities, because there are a lot of aids, a lot of a lot of ways you can find yourself in such universities. Speaking of just struggles in general, especially financial struggles, you've mentioned it a few times. Was there anything that you personally felt and kind of took inspiration from eventually, with the kind of work that you're doing today?
Like in terms of like with the economic struggles, or
Like you spoke about how your research paper was also based
oh
on financial debt, how students face it and how you want to work around it. The education policy, the work that you guys are doing now, is also trying to help students a lot. So can you also highlight a little bit of that, if it stems from anything personal too?
yeah, I mean, I think that what I became intrigued with the concept of is that, I mean, just think about schooling. All politicians talk about like, we're going to put money in education. Like schooling is so important. And when I got to graduate school and I started learning about education policy, I realized that there was just such an emphasis on K through 12, which is really important. But higher education is like the last tail end of all of these tax dollars that we invest in people. And so I think that what I became interested was with just, okay, like everybody needs basically, like if we look at lifetime earnings, like a person that has a high school degree versus a bachelor's degree, their lifetime earnings on average is greater. But if it's so difficult for them to go to college and they have to take out all of this money, like what are we doing? What kind of system are we setting up? And then most of the people that have to take out money are low income or people of color. And so we're actually just exacerbating inequities in our society. And so I just became very interested in higher education policy. I think that colleges and private institutions, like they go kind of under the radar because in the US, regulating them is very different than regulating K through 12. And I felt like it just became my mission to break barriers and pathways to college and higher education.
Well, thank you so much, Aliya, for that. I think it's something that a lot of students, even while applying to US, will thank you for eventually. So, well, that brings me to a question which is based on more of today, what's happening today. You are a lady in a position of power, and you're doing such good work. But I'm sure there are a lot of things that you have to deal with on a daily basis. Is there anything that you'd like to say to anyone who'd like to be in such a position, and how they should, probably uh, you know, orient themselves when moving into such a challenging job?
Yeah, I mean, when I was running for office, which was like, yeah, it was an experience. Someone told me something very interesting, and I could feel it happening when I was running for office. And I'm a very private person. I'm very introverted. I like working from home, and so, but I also am committed to public service. Um, and I could see this, like my privacy and my personal agency, like it was going away slowly, right? Like And it was like with small things, like my Facebook page was like, I was getting requests from strangers, like, you know, all of these different, there's different people tagging me on tweets and things, like people recognizing me in the streets. And the private citizen that I was slowly disappearing from me. And I could feel it happening. And it's one of those things that I didn't expect. I'm still grappling with it. Like now that I'm elected, is that I don't have any privacy anymore. Everything about me is public, which is and there's positives to that, right? Like the positive is that I get to share my story. I get to connect with people all over the world. The negative is right, like if something I say, it can go on Twitter, everything is documented, and it's just like I have to be cautious.
Right.
So that's a negative.
Right. But what is it that kind of keeps you going, like, despite all these challenges? What is it that makes you want to do this and continue doing this?
Yeah, I mean, I think a big part of me running for office, like, to be honest, there was a point where I wanted to give up when I was running for office because I was emotionally drained. And I had realized that my campaign was no longer about me. Like it had gained so much momentum and so much movement. Like it was crazy. I had a student come and he said, like, I've never worked on any campaign, but I saw your door hanger. Like it's like these things we were putting on people's door to let them know that I was running, and I loved your message and I want to help. And someone else saw one of my videos and he came out and he was like, I want to help you with XY. I want to make this video for you. And so I realized that the campaign was no longer about me. It was something bigger than me, right? And there were so many young women who were reaching out and were just like, I'm so excited that you're running. And so I think that was a big, yeah, that was a really big part of it. And I think that's what keeps me going. In terms of the actual work, aside from the politics, I really love higher education and policy. So, and I'm getting to do that as a board trustee, because trustees are charged with setting policy for community colleges. And so I get to do the work, but there's a lot of politics that has to be navigated. So
again, like, a very important lesson here is that there might be times in your life, especially for students, a key takeaway is that there might be times in your life where you may think that this is not for you, but you don't know how you're affecting lives. And I think from Aliya's example, we can learn how there were so many people who were rooting for her. And Aliya, despite being the youngest, you faced this challenge with such grace. Did that ever intimidate you, and did that stop you in any way? And does it still? And how do you deal with it when it does?
Yeah, I mean, I was actually in a meeting with like some of the college people, and then somebody said like, "Oh, isn't the trustee supposed to join?" And I was like, I'm the trustee, because they thought I was a student. So that was an experience. I think that even though I was on the younger end, I think I had quite a bit of experience in education and in education policy. And I do think it was a good fit, because sometimes you'll find people running for elected positions and it's not a good fit. So I think that really helped me, because I spent so many years, I spent years teaching, studying education, working on education policy. So it felt like a good fit.
Right. Absolutely. And I think it's just such good work. I'd like to say it again that you guys are doing, and I hope you continue doing this the way you have. I just want to go into a little slightly different tangent at this point. You are one of the first Indians in California to have been democratically been elected. Did you, like, growing up, did you ever feel a sense of did you ever feel anything that you were you didn't know exactly where you belonged? Because a lot of people generally especially Indians studying abroad, just living abroad too, tend to face these things. How did you battle with that?
Yeah, and just another, I'm not the first Indian American
Sorry.
woman elected in California. um, and yeah, I mean, it was interesting, right? Like my identity, right? My parents came from India to San Francisco in the 70s, and me and my siblings were all born in San Francisco. And when we were growing up, there were not many Indian families. And I think our parents like really, really hung on to the Indian culture because they didn't want us to be too Americanized. So I used to go to school with like amla oil in my hair, like I had oil in my hair, and I struggle, and like I remember like I was very confused about my identity. Like I remember watching Pocahontas and I was like, is that the type of Indian that I am? I'm not sure. Like there's a lot of confusion around my identity. Um, it wasn't until, and I think I really resisted it because, to be honest, because I wanted to fit in, I wanted to assimilate with my American peers. Like my mom would give me like roti for lunch, and I wanted a sandwich, like other kids had a sandwich, and I'd be like, make me a sandwich. It wasn't until high school that I like really started to embrace my Indian American identity, really, and just be comfortable with it. And like this is a part of me. This is who I am. And so I felt really excited to embrace that, and I was really humbled by the Indian American and the Muslim and just Indian support, community support in general in my run for office. So it was really, really humbling.
Actually, of course, I knew this, but the reason I brought it up is again for our students, while they may not face exactly the same situation, the age group that they all belong to at this point is where they're all finding their own ground. They're all trying to figure out who they are. And the reason why I, wanted Aliya you to talk about this is that, how life changed, right? After you completely accepted who you are, I'm sure that a lot of things changed for you, a lot of things inspired you to, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And it just felt more comfortable, right? Like it just felt, and to celebrate my identity.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for that, Aliya. I mean, there are so many questions that I can keep continuing to ask you. But at this point, I think it's only fair that our students get to interact with you. We have been populating, the link has been given out to everyone. We have a lot of questions, I'm sure. Anansh, can we start with a few questions from our students?
Yeah, sure. Just give me a moment. We have a lot of questions. A lot of students are raising their hands as well on Zoom. A very warm welcome to everybody who's joined us today. My name is Anand Prasad and I'm Ashi's assistant today. I'm the founder and managing director of Skills for Education too. And I'm just going to be here to help with questions. There is one question that has gotten 66 upwards. So I guess we must ask this question. Mohit, we will give you an opportunity to unmute yourself if you can, and if you can't, I will ask the question on your behalf. Mohit, I've given you the opportunity to unmute yourself. Go ahead, speak to Aliya, ask your question directly.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Good morning, ma'am. So, ma'am, my main question was that who is your inspiration? Who motivated you the most? Who was your main idol?
Awesome. Thank you, Mohit, for the question. There's one person in particular that sticks out for me, and I will say her name is Malia Cohen. So she's currently on the Board of Equalization for California. And so she's kind of the first person that gave me this push into this political world, if you will. And I started out as an intern for her office too. Like I was looking for a job, like, you know, I had so much money in student debt. I was looking for a job. My parents are like, when are you going to find a job? I was like, I'm trying. And, but she saw how committed I was to public service. I wanted to serve my community. And she offered me my first real job. And I remember when I was signing my contract, I was like, I have a hard time with public speaking and I get really scared and I don't know if I can do this. And she was like, I already know, and we're going to change that and you're going to have to figure it out. And I was like, okay. And, you know, within the first week, I had to go and testify in front of all of these like commissioners and all these people. And she was like, nope, you got to do it. And just like, I had to get over my fear. So I think that, you know, the way I've seen her navigate very difficult situations, the way I've seen her uplift other young women, it's always been very inspiring to me. And, you know, I think that it's always great to have people believe in you, but we also need people that give us opportunities, right? If you are in that position to help someone and give them an opportunity and to actually do it, it can change someone's life. It changed my life. So I would say her.
Yeah, ma'am. Thank you for answering my question.
Thanks.
Thanks, Mohit, for that great question. Sorry, Ashi, go ahead. You're saying something.
No, I'm just saying thank you to Mohit, and wow, that was a wonderful answer, Aliya. Sorry, Anuj, go ahead.
We have a question, and many students have asked a question of this sort. The next question that's got the most number of upvotes. So, Has, I'll give you an opportunity to unmute yourself if you can. So, Has, go ahead, ask your question if you'd like to ask and speak to Aliya directly.
Yes, my question was, ma'am, have you ever faced discrimination from Americans? Because like we are learning from civics and prejudice stereotyping. So that was my question. Have you ever faced discrimination from Americans?
Thank you for that question, Suhas. Yes, but not, I have to be honest, not a lot. And I think that's because I grew up in San Francisco, and San Francisco is like pretty liberal. It's a pretty liberal city, although now I have some different perspectives about the city. But overall, I would say no. I would say probably the biggest form of discrimination that I faced was after September 11th. After that incident, I think that I definitely faced some discrimination. There are people that would ask me if Osama bin Laden was my dad, and I would feel very uncomfortable. So I did have to navigate some of those spaces, and yeah, it happens, but you know, they're far and few, and those people are pointless.
I'd like to add on to like the question he asked. Was there any point that you faced, you know, discrimination, being a woman, being a girl, let's say in the position that you are today, or even when growing up in college? Did you face any of that?
Yeah, I mean, I think I definitely faced sexism, and it was, it's not, I think the thing that makes it really difficult is that it's not very overt, right? It's not, it's more nuanced, it's subtle, and it's very hard to kind of put your finger on it and then that it's happening. But yeah, I think that there were moments where I felt like I would have to really justify my credentials versus someone else that was running who had definitely had less experience than I did and was a male, didn't have to justify their credentials as much. And so you kind of notice these like subtle things that were happening.
Right. And, you know, sometimes you can't really change it even if you want to systemically. But is there anything that you would say to our girls, especially on how you can tackle these things?
Yeah, I mean, I think that you have to keep going, and you have to also find a strong network of other women to uplift you and support you, because it was really nice. I mean, there were some attacks that I got politically, and there are a lot of women that came and stood right next to me and were like, if you're going to come after her, you're also coming after us. And so we created like a support system.
Right.
So I think that that's definitely really, really important. And I think that also women, I think we struggle with imposter syndrome, a lot of self-doubt, um, even talking time. I think they actually did like a recent survey of how much, this was for the board of supervisors for the city council. Someone did a survey of how much airtime the male supervisors take versus the female supervisors, and women spoke a lot less than the men, and they interrupted them more. So I think that also just taking up more space and speaking your truth and knowing that you should be at the table and your voice and your perspective matters.
Right, absolutely. You mentioned a statement. You said about something about imposter syndrome. Can you explain that a little more to the kids? It'll be nice. They could be. It'll help them to identify certain things, certain feelings.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully I can define it, but it's basically like this idea. I mean, it's basically like just having a lot of self-doubt, like you've gotten to places in life by luck or by chance rather than your abilities and your skill sets. And so I think it's just something that you're constantly like, if you get a job, you're like, oh, I got it because I showed up at the right time and I was here. And you're always afraid someone's going to figure out that you're actually not that qualified. But all of that's like all in your head, and it's not true. You are qualified. You got that job because you're a hard worker and you were the perfect match and you can do it.
So was that like your reinforcement that you gave yourself, that you kept reminding yourself of how you obviously deserved this position?
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting, right? Because like you look at these positions of power, you look at these things and you're like, I can never be there, right? Like these people must have gone to like some special school or something, right? Like they must have done something like this, you're just like put it on a pedestal. And there's been quite a few moments where I'm sitting at the table and I'm like, I know the answer to this. I think I know this better than anyone else here. And I'm like, oh my God, I should be here. And so it's been fascinating to see how much of it was just in my head. Yeah.
Thanks to that, I was reading up somewhere that Albert Einstein also faced a similar, feeling. So I think if he can feel it, a lot of us may end up feeling, but that doesn't mean it's true. And once again, thank you so much for talking about that. Anansh, please go ahead.
We have a next question from Abhas. Questions, Aliya, they're like, it'll probably take us till your morning and our night to finish off answering all these questions that are being asked. But we'll try and make sure that we accommodate as many questions as possible, because there are a lot of students who want to ask you a lot of questions that I think are very relevant. And most importantly, they're coming from the perspective of learners who are going to be heavily impressioned by these answers. So we'll try and make sure we allow for as many questions to be asked. Abbas, go ahead. I've given you an opportunity. Your question has 46 upwards, so we need to ask that.
Yes, thank you. Good evening, ma'am. Congratulations on your victory. It makes me very happy to see an Indian in a position of power. And my question is, how do you formulate a proper politically correct opinion? Because I've had a lot of problem with that.
That's a great question. I don't know the answer. Anansh probably helps me more than anything. Yeah, I mean, I think that there's always going to be two sides to everything. I do think that I'm naturally a diplomatic person. I try to be very diplomatic, and sometimes that works against me, right? Because I need to take a side. But on average, or in general, I try to be very diplomatic. I think that, you make sure that you're politically and socially, aware and mindful. But if you're going to have an opinion that someone may disagree with, I think it's inevitable, right? Like it's just a part of the game, and you have to, as long as you're not being offensive in any way, then, you're just going to have to let it roll off your shoulders and agree to disagree.
And Aliya, just again, a follow up to this question, how do you make sure that you're heard in the room? How do you ensure that your voice, you mentioned how women especially face that as an issue, but how do you make sure you do that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that this is one of the things that Anansh has really helped me with, is you got to prepare. I have to work hard, right? Like before my board meetings, like I look through all of the agenda items. Like I think about, like I almost script out some of the things that I want to say. And that helps me speak with more confidence, even if I'm not reading it. So I make sure that I'm prepared.
And I think, like, again, a good lesson here for our students is that, while Aliya has mentioned she's also kind of doubted herself as a public speaker, preparation really helps. So you might feel otherwise, but if you're prepared, you can do and you can achieve wonders. So thanks again for that, Aliya. Anansh.
Absolutely. Well, the next question is actually a very simple question at face value, but I think the answer is going to be very nuanced. Snigdha, go ahead. I'm giving you an opportunity to ask this question that's once again been upvoted quite a bit on Pigeonhole.
Thank you, sir. First of all, ma'am, a very big congrats that you are able to help so many people by changing the policies. My question is that did everyone really support you, because you had different perspectives, different opinions? Means your parents will definitely help you out there, but your friends, your other relatives, did they support you? Did they give some other ideas, or they actually just told that you should not do that?
Yeah, thank you for that question. Surprisingly, like, I mean, again, like I'm very, very thankful and grateful for my network. My parents were very supportive. I think my friends, I have amazing friends. Like they went above and beyond. Like they walked like hundreds of blocks for me in the heat, in the smoke. Like they sacrificed a lot to help me win. And again, because I think, right, they believe in what I was fighting for, right? I'm fighting for students. I'm fighting to make sure that we create more opportunities for people so that they can reach their educational goals. And I'm doing this because this is my passion. I think that, so in terms of the ideology, there was a lot of overlap. Overall, I got support aside from like the politics, right? Like not all of the elected people supported me. So that was interesting. And a part of running for office is that, which I hate doing, but you have to ask. You have to ask for money. You have to ask for help. You have to ask people, hey, will you endorse me? So a pretty big endorsement that I got was from US Congressman Ro Khanna, who's also Indian. And he endorsed me. So that really helped me. But there were some, overall, everybody was very excited. And I was kind of surprised, to be honest, of how supportive the Indian and the Muslim community was. There were some people, because I'm not married, so some people were sending around my website that has like my policies as like my like bio data for marriage proposals. So that was happening. But from besides that, everyone was very supportive.
Thank you so much, Snigdha. I'm sure you're quite happy with that answer. Let's quickly move on. Lots of questions. Let's try and entertain as many questions as possible. We'll extend this session by another 15 to 20 minutes. Aliya, is that okay with you?
Yeah, that's fine with me.
All right. We have a question from Ronak Das, right? Again, it's very interesting to see the kinds of questions that these students are coming up with. Ronak, go ahead. Ask your question. I'll spotlight you as well so that everybody can see you.
Yes, ma'am. First of all, it's an honor to be here talking to you. So I was really intrigued to know the biggest challenge you faced in your time and to make it to this level.
Ronak, I'm so sorry, you're not very audible, but I'll ask that question on your behalf because I can see it. So Aliya, what Ronak is asking is, he was intrigued to know what your biggest challenge was in making it to this level, right? What was your biggest challenge? I mean, there are a lot of challenges you've talked about, but he wants to know your biggest challenge in general.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for the question, Ronak. My biggest challenge has been me. Me and my fear, and just getting over my fears and my self-doubt. My biggest barrier has been me. And because I really believe where there's a will, there's a way. And if you want to accomplish something, you can do it. And it requires, it doesn't just happen. It requires a lot of work. It requires sacrifice. It requires money. And it requires a lot of different things, but sometimes your biggest barrier are your fears that you have to face. That's it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that answer, Aliya. And I think that was such a beautiful answer, actually, when you come to look at it. I think it's so applicable to every one of us. In most of our cases, the biggest challenge is ourselves. Just overcoming ourselves will allow us to overcome so many of the other challenges. And I'll talk about it later, but I can tell you how admirably Aliya has done this through her life, and of course, during this entire phase where she fought for this election. So let's quickly move on to the next question. This question is by Sanjay Kumar. Actually, Sanjay, I'm so sorry, that question is not applicable. Let's go on to Saranya Ghosal. Saranya, I'm just going to give you an opportunity to unmute. Give me 1 second. Yes, go ahead and ask your question.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Ma'am, first of all, congratulations for making a change in a community. And my question is, being in this American elections, you did have many difficulties like that. Like many people motivate you, so many people also they demotivate you, try to move you from these elections and all. So what it give you, a positive or a negative vibe?
Mostly negative. Mostly a negative vibe. Well, but like, I think that it's not easy. There's a lot of negative vibes. It's like shark water. It was competitive. But I think, again, right, like you have to foster those positive vibes. Like I had to, Vidhi spent hours on the phone with me, helping bring positivity and, with my mind and me. And so just sharing that positivity that she has with me really helped me. So I think just like tapping into my network for that, but it's a mix of both vibes.
Thanks so much for that answer, Aliya. We'll quickly move on to the next question. That's by Avni.
Yes, ma'am. First, thank you so much for giving me an opportunity to ask my question. My question is, as you know, there are many ways to get distracted, like friends, online memes, and fashion, and much more. So did you ever thought you're getting distracted by these, and how did you manage to get back to your path and focus again?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for the question. I hate social media. I hate all of those things, memes, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. I hate all of it. So I never get really distracted by it. My weak spot is YouTube. I'm really into food mukbang right now. But yeah, besides YouTube, but it was like really funny because when I was running for office, like you have to have so many different Instagrams and Facebooks and Twitter and a website and all of these different things. And luckily I had friends who were helping me manage who do like all those things. But I'm not a person that's easily distracted by those things. I don't know if it really impacted me, but
Anansh, I'm going to take an opportunity to add what Aliya is distracted by. She's distracted by watching Crime Patrol.
Yes, I love Crime Patrol.
She uses that as an opportunity to de-stress. And I think she's really great at that. She's really great at knowing how to balance things which you need to kind of disconnect and really calm yourself down when things get heated, and use that in a positive manner rather than as another distraction, like you asked of me. So I think, of course, jokes aside, but she's really good at balancing that and prioritizing that. She's going to be humble about it, but it's true. So maybe that's an answer to you.
It's so ironic that Crime Patrol is what suits her.
especially when, that is something that can do an otherwise.
Savdhan, India. That's
That's
You're gonna
interesting.
get so angry with me after this call
Yes,
about this.
yeah.
We should actually get you on as their brand ambassador, Aliya, because you're,
Oh my God.
I don't think I don't think you're their prototype as an
Oh
audience.
my God, I would die. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm such a huge fan.
All right, great. We're going to allow for a few more students to ask questions. Thanks so much for actually chipping in, Vidhi, and sharing that fun fact about
Yes.
Aliya. I think that makes her, that of course makes her more approachable for the students as well. So students, Aliya does watch Crime Patrol and Savdhan India, is not always checking those agendas before a boardroom meeting at the City College of San Francisco. So everybody has their ways of, letting their hair down. Yes, Riddhi, go ahead. You have a question. Riddhi, have you joined from 2 devices? Yes. Riddhi, go ahead. Riddhi Sharma.
Yes, ma'am. So, ma'am, first of all, congratulations on your achievements. Second was that, ma'am, everyone face difficulties in their life. So, have you uh, have you ever faced those type of moments where you just wanted to give up but you didn't?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that question. Yeah, I mean, I think that I've definitely, I think there's like 2 moments that really come to mind in my life. And the first moment is, well, maybe there's a lot, but I'm going to focus on 2. One of the moments was that I was about to finish graduate school. Everybody had almost wrapped up, and I was working on my final thesis paper, which was like 50 pages. Like, you need to finish this paper in order to graduate. And I had worked on it for so long. I had changed the paper, and my professor told me, like, no, you need to like add more. And I worked on it again. And I remember I was about to I sent it to him, and he said that, oh, you didn't put all of your edits and you need to do this again. And the paper was like almost like 50, 60, 70 pages, right? And I was like, I didn't keep track of all my edits. Like, I don't know what it is. And I was writing an email to him. It was like, I was about to have the moment. I was writing an email, and I was like, I can't do it. I can't do this. If you don't want to give me my degree, I don't care. Like, I was so done. And I was about to send that email, and luckily, like, I was supposed to meet up with a friend to have ice cream, and he came, or actually, I don't know if I think he was just in the library, and he saw me, and I told him that I was struggling, and he was like, oh, this is just like a setting thing. Like, you can like go back to an old version on Microsoft or something and transpose your documents, and all of your track edits will come onto this paper. And I was like, what? And he did that. And then I sent it to the professor, and the professor was like, this is exactly what I was looking for, A+. And here's your degree. Congratulations. And so, right, like so never give up. Don't do it. Or if you're about to call a friend or ask somebody for help, when you're having one of those moments, again, really cultivating a strong network of people that you can lean on. And, this was someone that I didn't know too well. I'd met him in graduate school, and we were in the same program. And then the second moment that I will go to is when I was running for office, and the whole time I was working up, and Ananch can speak to this, like, we were preparing, Ananch was helping me prepare to give my talking points for this very big endorsement that I needed. An endorsement is like support, basically, right? I needed this local Democratic Party to support me. And that was when I saw politics play out for the first time in my life. And I didn't get the endorsement. I didn't get it. I was 1 vote short. And I needed that endorsement in order to win the main election, because it really helps you. And at that time, I was like, I can't do this. I didn't come out of my room for 2 days. Like, I wanted to give up. And I remember this person And everybody called me and they were very supportive. They're like, keep going. But I remember one person, one of my friends, or I don't even know if he was a friend. He was just supportive of me. He came outside my house. He drove, he came, and he was like, we're going to go walk blocks and drop off your literature and put it on people's doors. We're going to do it right now. And I was like, I don't want to come out of my room. I don't want to run. He was like, come outside. And that means you just have to walk more. You have to drop your literature to more houses. That's how you're going to beat them. So like, I think that when you're having one of those moments, right, like you're going to have to, I was lucky enough to have surrounded by people, but like maybe finding an inspirational quote or something that really resonates with you. Like I love The Alchemist, right? Like there's like quotes from there that I love reading. And anytime I'm having one of those moments, I think just leaning on that. Sorry, that was a bit convoluted, but yeah.
No, I think that's a great answer. That's an absolutely brilliant answer, Aliya. In fact, there are times when, Aliya has really played down a lot of adversity that she's faced in her life. And I will talk about it towards the end when I actually speak. But one of the things that Aliya has typically started off with before every endorsement. So typically, students, for your reference, whenever we go through this entire election process in the US, there's a lot of campaigning that goes beyond door-to-door campaigning and making these speeches that our politicians in India make. You actually have to make all those speeches. Of course, you have to address different sets of people, and the populations, especially in a city like San Francisco, are very diverse. But beyond that, you need to try and get endorsements of bigger clubs, of bigger policy think tanks, because that really supports in pushing your election. One of the things that Aliya was mentioning is that she was not actually one of those individuals who got the most number of endorsements. She did work very hard on endorsements, but there were a lot of people who got more endorsements than she did. It was a door-to-door campaigning and a lot of other things that went into making sure that she was able to get the seat. She was able to win the election in spite of some of these endorsements not coming. But through that entire process, I can tell you, because I've seen it through and through, typically every single time, whenever there was a lot of stress, the first thing that Aliya used to start off with is, Anuj, I don't want to do this. I just don't want to do this. I want to quit. I want to stop. That's exactly how we always started a meeting off, and we went forward from there. We always went forward from there, but that was always what Aliya actually thought. And honestly speaking, she went and did brilliant stuff every single time after that. But that's a thought that a lot of you can resonate with as well. Before an examination, before a major talk. Ashi will also second that. Ashi can tell you some of her experiences, but everybody starts off with that, I don't want to do this, but then you go ahead and do it, isn't it, Aliya?
Yeah, I mean, I remember, I think that Anuj was like right before a big debate, one of my first debates, and I think I had a full-blown, I was panicking. I called Anuj and I was like, I can't do this, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do this. Like, I was like, I can't do it. And I was panicking. I don't want to, and then once and then he was like, you're going to have to do this. You're going to have to do this. We're prepared. You're prepared. And I remember like I had some friends who were like, we're here to support you. Like if you need us. And once I was in it, I had so much fun. I loved all the questions. Like I was raising my hand. It was like one of the best experiences. And I was like, wow, it was all in my head.
So, I mean, that's something very important for all of you students to learn as well. So I just thought I'll allow Aliya to share that point as well. At this point, I'd like to introduce somebody who has been very kind to join us today, has also been very animated, shared a lot of her views with us throughout the entire duration of the meeting. We have Vidhi Thakkar joining us. She's actually the reason due to which I know Aliya as well, one of Aliya's closest friends, a huge source of support, a very big reason due to which Aliya has also gathered a lot of courage. She's had a great support system, Aliya, with her friends. She's already mentioned it, and probably Vidhi is foremost among them. I asked Vidhi to join us today to share her views with us. She needs to leave in the next 2 minutes. So Vidhi, would you like to come in and share a few words with us?
Thank you so much, Anand. Those were very, very kind words. I was sitting here in India comfortably in my room, not doing any of the legwork for her campaign, like going door to door or walking long miles. None of that. Just comfortably here, just giving her pep talks. And sounds like you gave her a lot more pep talks. So nothing of that sort, but always very, very happy to support Aliya. I think I wanted to just say a couple things about Aliya that really strike out as inspiration for me, right? Like, I think we were talking about how school's boring for you, work can get frustrating for us. And like, no matter how old you get, you're still going to have all those moments of doubts and underconfidence. And the things that I've learned from Aliya, the first thing is she's really focused on also balancing her own emotional, mental, and physical health. I think she's taught me that you have to prioritize yourself. And I think that's wonderful. I think that's something that all kids should also like prioritize. I didn't ask questions or think about myself so much when I was that young as you are. And now, I mean, the girl who didn't want to take roti to school now loves dal. She's obsessed with it, and she'll always only want to eat that. But she really prioritizes her health and balances her life that way really, really well. So that's a big thing. And then I think one of you asked her about, did your relatives support you, or did they, make you doubt yourself more? Aliya touched upon this, and as I think an Indian girl or marriageable age, there's always going to be people saying, "Ab to shaadi kar lo," fine, etc. And she's become so confident about like standing for her own values and saying, "I need to do what I need to do." There is no typical path that at 25 you study, at 30 you do this, at 40 she's just breaking so many stereotypes. And I think that's a message, especially for the women, but also for all the young men on this call, that's something that you can learn from Aliya about as well. My favorite moment with Aliya is we used to love going to eat falafels in this place during graduate school. And this one day she said, "Vidhi, I have this opportunity to go to this place that I've never even heard of." And it was this like tiny little country next to Greece called Macedonia. And she's like, "I don't know. Do you even know what this place is? Like, it scares me. Should I even do this?" And that's the thing I love most about Aliya. She's so self-aware of things that scare her, but she always follows her gut and she goes, in with her intuition. And she's not afraid to experiment. She's not afraid to say, "Let me try this out and see where it takes me." So that's another fabulous, fabulous thing about Aliya. And I think that, all of you, I mean, the fact that you're attending a call like this, I don't think I had the opportunity to do that. So kudos to Anansh and Ashi for pulling this together and giving all the kids this opportunity. But now that you are investing so much time and energy into thinking about yourself, I think remember to try and, follow your gut, experiment a little, and don't be afraid. Like Aliya, like she's not afraid of conflict anymore, which she used to be before. It's only because she pushes her boundaries little by little. And besides Crime Patrol, she watches a lot of SRK movies when she's stressed. So, remember to find your guilty pleasure, lean into things that make you happy so that you can, continue when things get really shitty, and they will get really shitty as you grow up more and more. But I know she's just such a wonderful, supportive friend, and she balances her health, her life, her work, and being there for all of us. She's talked so much about us being there for her, but she's if I call her and in the middle of her night, she'll still be picking up the phone and saying, "Yeah, tell me what I can do to help." So I think it's valuable to find a community that you can support as well as be supported by. So I think that's it. I love you, Aliya, and really proud of you.
I love you too, Vidhi. You're so sweet. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming in, Vidhi, and thank you so much for sharing so much of perspective with all the students. We have time for a maximum of 2 more questions. I am so sorry. We'll probably try and do another talk with Aliya sometime, but this is always the case. And today, honestly, we have just a crazy number of questions coming in. I'm going to ask this question on behalf of the student just to brush it up. And I'm trying to pick up a variety of questions so that we get to see a lot of perspective that the students have, and especially with questions. The question that's coming in is from Hunar Sharma. How do you win the heart of people in countries other than your own? This is actually something very interesting, where Aliya is a US citizen. Just to put it out there were a lot of questions. Aliya is a US citizen. She is a proud US citizen. She is of Indian origin. She's an Indian Muslim, but she's a US citizen. But yes, how do you reach out to other communities in the US? How did you win their hearts, Aliya? Because obviously it was not the Indians who were voting for you alone in San Francisco. You ended up as the person with the 3rd most number of votes to get elected. And the first 2 were by default. So you basically were the winner of a new election as far as I'm concerned. So how did you manage that, Aliya? I mean, what did you do? I mean, what was the secret to your success? How do you get people to love you?
Well, I hope people love you. No, I mean, I think that I think that just figuring out what connects all of us, right? And just, trying to be your authentic self, right? Like I'm me, I'm quirky, I have terrible jokes. I like Crime Patrol, and, just finding different communities and that's how, figuring out what unites us and what's our common ground. And even if we're, different, like we have these core values that are aligned. And I think that, right, I really resonate with people that pursue careers in education or public service or serving the community, and like we can find connection points on that. So I think that was a key way that I connected to different communities. And I do also think that for me, what really helped me in my race in San Francisco was that I was born and raised in San Francisco. And my career has been dedicated to helping other students in San Francisco growing up the same way that I did. Like we grew up, we didn't have a lot of money. I went to public schools. And so I dedicated a lot of my career giving back to the community. And so when I was running for office, like I think that was also a pretty big key point.
Absolutely, absolutely. One of the things that I'd like to tell you about Aliya is that Aliya has always been very genuine about herself, even through the entire election. There were times, and I'll be honest, because I was a part of her entire campaign team and helping her when, we thought of, coming up with statements that were just open-ended, just making sure that we toe the line diplomatically. But there were times when Aliya just put her foot down. She said, no, this is not me. I'm not going to do something that I'm not comfortable with. And I think that's one of the places where, she did land. And, there were times when we did have disagreements on things, but we went ahead, obviously, with what Aliya wanted. But she was very clear, even though that would have probably not given her as much of political mileage as she probably wanted, she just refused. And I think that's something that's very admirable, especially considering the fact that she was anyway fighting against the odds. So that's something I'd like to say. One quick last question we'll allow from students. I've tried to ensure as many questions as possible, tried to follow the upvote mechanism so that I'm not called unfair. There's this question from Satakshi Sati, which is just very interesting. And I think it's a very fitting question to end with. Aliya, if there was one word that you would like to use to describe yourself, what would that be? That's what Satakshi is asking you.
Ooh, one word. Oh my gosh. One word to describe myself.
One of those personality contest questions, Aliya, for you.
I know. Oh my gosh. I would say, oh my gosh, I'm drawing a blank. I don't know. I don't want to say like ambitious, like a cliche word of some sort. I don't know. Hardworking.
One word that would define Aliya is resilient. Aliya is a very resilient person.
That's a good
one. Does sound good, Aliya? Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Aliya is a very resilient personality. There's absolutely no doubt about it. Extremely resilient. And I think with that, we'll quickly hand it back to Ashi. Ashi, we have time for just a couple of more things. Please go ahead.
Thank you so much, Anansh. I was just listening to the entire conversation. And, Aliya, even though you couldn't come up with the first word yet, I think everyone had that word, in their mind, because that's the exact word that was in my mind, and Anansh said it. I just want to kind of end it, like, kind of just bring a lot of things that you've said together. Just give me one moment, please. I think there's some internet glitch. Am I audible?
Yes, go ahead.
So all I want to say is that, Aliya, you've said so many things. You've mentioned a lot of things in the last 1.5 hours. And I think you sharing your personal experiences, your challenges that you faced, a few things that we've learned is students in life, things may not work your way, but you have to pivot and you need to figure out a lot of things that happened in her life. If we were to look at it from, a more generic perspective, you may think that, oh, she studied this and then she went ahead and did this. People may perceive it to be something else, but I think what she made out of it is what matters the most. So in your life too, I think it's very important that you take everything that comes your way and, you take it with in stride and you make the most of it. Another thing, what I feel is, Aliya, I think you were blessed with a very important and a very good support system. And I think when Vidhi was talking about you, we realized, we got a glimpse of it when Anansh was speaking. I think you have that impact on others, and you do it so beautifully. And when we started, before we started, we had a lot of students saying that, I like Aliya ma'am already. And I think it's just your vibe, it's your presence. And I think that's again something students we can learn from. It's so important to be a kind person. And I think from the entire conversation today, Aliya, that's the vibe we got. And I can only be so happy with what you're doing, being in the system, trying to make changes, trying to bring changes. And again, thank you so much for that. And finally, one thing is that she faced a lot of, she spoke about how she was her biggest, like she had the biggest challenge talking to herself, figuring a way around it. I think it's very important, Aliya, that you mentioned talking things into existence. You made sure that you were, putting your point across. You made sure that all the things that you felt, even though you may not have felt it, you kind of, just kept putting those positive thoughts in your head. And I hope that, students, we kind of follow this as well, that, through examples of like an Ivy League college, or even in the position that she is, which is a very challenging position. She's the youngest and, one of the very few people in that position. So she's made it happen. Even after all these things that went on in her head, she had that positive approach and outlook. So I hope that you continue feeling the same way about things too, and we learn from that. So, well, Aliya, thank you so much. I'm extremely grateful to have had this opportunity to, speak to you, to talk to you, to interact with you and learn from you. And your insightful inputs on so many things have definitely given us a food for thought. It's truly a blessing to talk to someone of your stature and have someone like you open this live series for us. It's kind of set the correct precedent, and I'm sure it's going to inspire our girls and our boys too to dream big, because I think that's the one way to really ensure a lot of things in life. So thank you so much once again. Just want to end it on one thought now. Students, all the students who have attended this, there is a way you can get your certification. Please make sure that you are filling in the assignment. The assignment actually carries all the important takeaways that you've learned from this. It'll be a good way for us also to know what all you've learned from it. And finally, thank you so much for everyone who's joined in, especially Dr. Amrita Vora, who's the director principal. We also have the team Aspire for her team who's joined us today, who are doing such good work. Aliya, I just wanted to quickly mention that they are the ones who are ensuring that girls around India have equality, have a way to put across their points, their voice is heard. And Anansh, why don't you quickly share your feedback too?
Sure, for this session.
Yeah, definitely. The entire thing. What is it that
Absolutely. So I would love to do that. Just a couple of things before we go on. This has been a fabulous start to the entire Still I Rise talk series. Starting it off with somebody who I really love, who's extremely dear to me, somebody who I just got to know probably a year back, but has become a very important part of our lives. And we're just so proud of her. With Aliya, we've started this off. We're doing this in association with ELPRO International School, was session 1, and we are glad to see the turnout. We have had over 750 individuals join us for this entire session, over 800 at a particular point in time as well. And I hope students, you have gone back, or you're going back from the session a lot more enlightened. The next talk is next Saturday. It is going to be with Miss Tanvi Lad, who's a former professional badminton player. And she was world number 50, a lot of adversity to come up to where she is. That's once again in association with Aspire for Another School. We will share the details with you, and if you'd like to join in, please feel free to join in. It's once again going to be a fab talk. We're going to go on with this entire series of Still I Rise for the next 4-5 weeks, speaking to different women of substance, incredible women like Aliya, who are definitely going to inspire you in multiple different ways. All right. I'd like to mention Aspire for her at this point in time. Great work, Madhura Dasgupta Sinha and her entire team. I think they're going to be sharing something in the chat section as well if you'd like to join their community. It's a community for women and people who support the empowerment of women in multiple ways. Please do go ahead. I'd like to express my absolute heartfelt gratitude to Sugandha ma'am from ELPRO International School, the Director of Communications, and of course, Dr. Amrita Vora, who's the Director Principal, extremely enthusiastic about the entire session, made sure that, students are motivated to join, and I'm sure they're so happy that they have joined. Now, coming to Aliya, I have had the good fortune, to be very honest, of speaking to Aliya at a very, very close level. The reason I know Aliya and the reason due to which I'm so proud of her is I got the opportunity to be her part of her entire campaign team. I was her public speaking coach through the period of her election campaign, and we were working on different speeches, working on her confidence, making sure that she comes out and shows who she actually is without worrying about all this discrimination that exists, a lot of identity politics that exists, and things that can be used against her. And I'm just so proud with the way that she was able to emerge. Honestly speaking, not many people gave her a chance. Okay, let's face it. By the end of it, everybody was very, very happy with everything that we had done for Aliya and her entire support team as well. But it was just about doing our best and leaving the rest to, the Almighty and other powers that everybody believes in. And honestly speaking, she is a perfect example of how, when you dream, when you have ambition, when you do the right things, when you're true to yourself, when you work hard, when you back yourself, and when you have people to back you as well, great things happen. She became the first Indian Muslim woman in San Francisco. And as of now, she's the second Indian Muslim woman in California, but a very, very big position. I mean, democratically held positions are very difficult to get. And considering, what you need to understand, students, is just give it a little more perspective. Aliya comes from the Indian community, which is a minority community. It is a very big minority community in different parts of the United States of America. She's a woman, which brings into a further minority as well. And then she's an Indian Muslim woman, which also has some bearing with reference to, different aspects of how people perceive things. She has fought all of this adversity and done so many things to become what she is today, which are just so fabulous and things that you all need to learn from. A lot of us complain about us not having this, us not having that. Well, Aliya has actually come from a position in general where, she really had to fight to make things work for her. In general, she got into this great school, the Aim High program as well, which was a program for gifted students. She did fight through adversity, not the best of times financially as well growing up, but she made sure that things worked for her. And today, she's not only doing everybody around her proud, but is also making sure that she gives other people an opportunity through the City College of San Francisco. So students, especially all of you who feel that you're have-nots, just see what you can have if you have the confidence to do so. Yeah, so that's what Aliya is for you. And Aliya is still rising. She has risen. She's risen commendably. She's risen wonderfully. We're just so proud of her. Everybody's proud of her. I'm sure at the end of this entire talk, Aliya, you have about 750 more fans at the minimum. And I'm sure that you have this huge community of people who will be backing you from India. And I'm sure you deserve to be back just the way you are. But I hope that you keep rising. I hope you still rise, and keep doing all of us proud and serve as a huge role model for every individual that gets to know your story. So thank you so much, Aliya, for obliging us, joining us. I know it's like 11:15 now in California and San Francisco, but it's just been fabulous to actually be on the other side and just dote over everything that you have had to say today and share with us. It's just been such a wonderful experience, and I'm just so thankful to you for it.
Thank you so much. I just want to say a few closing remarks too. Thank you so much for hosting this, Ananch and Ashi and all of the sponsors. This is such an amazing event, and thank you to all of you for joining and listening to my story. And this is a part of how weird it is, right? Like, I'm not used to telling my story, and I had to learn how to do that. But there's power in telling your story, right? Like, and really owning it and using it as a way, as a mechanism to inspire others. And, if I were to leave you with anything is, things aren't always going to work out. The odds were definitely against me, as Ananch said. Everybody had actually said, you're probably going to lose. So be prepared to run again in the future. This is like a trial run. Think of it like that. And we surprised everybody on election night. I came in third, like the top, you have to be top 4. I became top 3. And we should share the video of my reaction. Like, I screamed because I was in shock. So I just think it's just to echo what Ananch said, that, manifest it. Dream it, do it, believe in it, because you have to convince yourself first that you can do it. And And don't let anyone tell you no. People are going to tell you no. How many people told me no? But you have to believe that you can achieve it. And even if things don't work out, just pivot. Be ready to try something new, try something different, carve out a new path, and just always be true to yourself. So thank you all again for being here tonight. And I'm happy to share my email. I can't promise I'm going to be super responsive, but if there's anything that I can ever do or any questions or anything like that, I'd be happy to stay in touch.
Thank you so much once again, Aliya. Again, everything that you've said, I'm sure has helped us and has inspired us, and is something that we're always going to remember. So thank you so much. Is there anything that you'd like to say, as a parting note, something for Skillsphere and Ananch, anything that you'd like us to remember and keep in mind?
Actually, before Aliya goes, Aliya, of course, thank you so much. And you've summed it up so beautifully. I have one small message for children, all those are attending, that post the session, 5 minutes, don't do anything. Just get into a state of mindfulness, absorb and internalize whatever Aliya and Ananch just said, and write down your big goal out there. They've given you every reason to believe that it will work and the dream will come true one day. Just make sure you do that. And yes, now over to you, Aliya.
Yes. So do you want me to just one more parting, or sorry, I'm going into my mindful zone right now.
Ashi, you're on mute. You were saying something, yes.
Sorry. I think, yeah. Thank you so much, Dr. Vora. I think that's such an important thing to do as well, just to reflect on all these things that you're learning. And the assignment is actually a way to reflect. So students, please make sure that you're filling up the assignment, that you're adding all the things that you've learned. And the second question also is about how you plan on learning and using these learnings in future. So make sure that you are filling up the assignment. And thank you so much once again, Dr. Vora, for ensuring that EIS is always helping and supporting us. And yes, over to you, Aliya. Is there anything at all that you'd like to say as a parting note? Because I think we want to hold on to this for a little longer.
Yeah, I mean, I think that keep going, keep achieving your dreams. Again, just sometimes you can be your own biggest enemy, and realizing that and recognizing that and challenging that, I think is really important. And I think it's also really important to take care of your mental health, and practice self-care. And if something isn't working out, it's okay. It is okay, because you will figure it out. And you have to just continue to believe in yourself that I will figure this out and I will be successful.
Thank you so much, Aliya. Thank you so much. Yes, Ananch.
I'm so sorry to add in one last thing. We have a member from the Aspire for Her community as well, who'd just like to say a few things for Aliya. Nandika, please go ahead. You can go ahead and speak.
Yes. Hey everyone, I'm Nandika Tejnani. I recently completed my 10th grade. I've been a part of Aspire for Her for almost a month now. I'm the youngest ambassador in the ambassador program. Aspire for Her is a social startup started on International Women's Day last year by our founder and CEO, Ms. Madhura Dasgupta Sinha. It was started with an aim of impacting over 1 million women and adding 5 billion to India's GDP by helping women join and stay in the workforce by 2025. We do this through webinars, providing job opportunities, learning resources, as well as one-to-one mentorship sessions. Join us in this movement and be a part of our community by signing up through the link in the chat box. You can also take a look at our website and follow us on various social media platforms like Twitter and Instagram. Also, we are coming up with an exciting community in partnership with Project Naveli, founded by Navya Naveli Nanda. Don't forget to join us tomorrow at 8 p.m. for an Instagram live with our founder, Madhura Dasgupta Sinha and Navya Naveli Nanda, to know all about this community.
Thank you so much, Nandika. Thank you so much for that message. With that, I think, Ashi, we can do the honors and let the students reflect on an absolutely inspiring session. Aliya, I'm getting a bunch of WhatsApps about how beautiful a session this is, and I'm sorry if you get a lot more invitations post this for talks in India.
No, I'm excited. Thank you. This was wonderful.
Yes, Ashi, go ahead, and thank you so much, students.
Thank you so much, Aliya, once again. There's always so much to learn from you, and I hope I continue, interacting in some way. We all continue interacting in some way, learning from you and sharing our experiences. So once again, thank you so much, students. Thank you so much to Aspire for Her, Elpo International School, and of course, SkillSphere for ensuring that we're able to do this. Thank you so much, Ananj. Thank you so much, Amrita Vora ma'am, Sugandha ma'am. And once again, thank you so much, Aliya. We hope to keep in touch and keep learning from you. Thank you so much, students. And yes, of course, all those who've joined us from YouTube live too. Thank you so much. I understand we started a little late, but I'm sure it's been worth it. So thank you so much. Yes, Aliya, you were saying something?
I was going to say next time in India, everyone has to take me to the best eating spots and treat me to some good food.
Definitely a lot of crime patrol. No.
Yes. Yes, if anyone knows anyone, let me know.
The crime patrol sets in Mumbai.
All right, everybody. Have a good night or good morning or good afternoon. Okay.